Moose? What? Oh my gosh, yes, that's a Canada story too. Good call. Okay, all of you guys, I'm sure you're familiar with Scott McNeil. Well, Scott and I are good buddies, and in fact, you want to hear something funny? When I first started in voice acting, and I started going to conventions, people would come up to me and go, "Oh my God, it's you. You're Scott McNeil." And I'm like, who is this guy? I gotta meet him. And finally, I got to meet him, and we actually, I actually dressed up as him once. Oh my gosh. It's gotta be on the internet somewhere. We did a convention in Denver called Otakuthon. And he was gonna be a guest there, and we'd never, I don't remember if we'd ever met before, but I knew he was gonna be there, and I got myself a plaid cowboy shirt, cut the sleeves off, and got the cowboy, the straw cowboy hat, rolled up on the sides like he always wears, and the jeans, and I glued a goatee on just like he was wearing right at the time. And they introduced, we had it set up with the con. Okay, pretend we're in opening ceremonies. You're the audience, and Scott was sitting in the front row, right? And they said, please welcome, guest of honor, first, Scott McNeil. And Scott turns around, stands up and turns around and waves, and everyone kind of claps and cheers, right? And then from behind him, I come out on stage, and I'm like, he doesn't see me. And then like, ah! And he's like thinking, wow, this is amazing. And he's waving and stuff. And then I walked up behind him, and he turned around and just died laughing. And he and I started doing the whole mirror thing. And then I sat down beside him, and like the whole rest of the opening ceremonies, people were coming up and taking pictures of it. We were sitting exactly the same way and stuff. We had so much fun. And that night, we went down into the convention, and we're walking around, and kids would run up with a camera and go. But anyway, I was in Vancouver I went up there for Anime Evolution, and Scott and I were like, hey dude, we got to get together. Well, I love to play golf. I mean, I love it, and Scott plays too, and so we're like, dude, we got to go play one of these beautiful courses. He was always telling me how beautiful the courses were over there. So I brought my clubs, and he and I, and Michael, wow, his name just went right, Michael Coleman, he's a voice actor up here too. He and Scott, Michael, and I went golfing in Vancouver. And, and it was a beautiful course with these, beautiful rolling, the fairways cut out of the woods and stuff. It was amazing. So we're getting ready to hit our tee shot down into this beautiful fairway. And there's, all of a sudden, this moose comes lumbering out of the woods and is standing in the middle of the fairway. And we're trying to decide whether we should make a game out of hitting the moose or see who could get as close to the moose as possible. Of course, it would be Scott because his balls go whoosh. But that was just a joke. But it was so funny because to see a moose in the middle of the fairway in a golf course. And then we had a shot at another hole on the same golf course where Scott was getting ready to hit the ball, and this deer just stepped out of the woods. I was standing there looking at Scott. And I was sitting in the cart, and I'm taking pictures of Scott. Looking at this deer behind him. Question?
Do you think you could sing a bit?
Sing a bit?
Yeah.
A bit. What should I sing? Oh, gosh. That one's a little... What? Brothers? Okay. Wait a minute. Get a bit of courage. By the way, there's an awesome remix of this song on my new CD. It's really fun. Did you like it? It's cool, right? It's got little voice samples in it. And... Oh, cool. Thank you, sweetie. Anyway, the original song goes like this. How can I repay you, brother mine? How can I expect you to forgive? Clinging to the past, I shed our blood and shattered your chance to live. Now imagine that. Awesome. It was fun. Yes?
Is there a special voice actor who inspires you? Like, you've done great work?
You know what? No, there really isn't. A lot of people say Mel Blanc because he was so amazing with all of the Warner Brothers and stuff that he did. He was crazy talented. I mean, unbelievably. And I guess I always loved those kind of things. And you know what's funny, you guys? Even when I was young, I would always try to imitate Scooby-Doo, and and Shaggy, and the Speed Racer guys, and Pops Racer, and never imagined that anything would ever come of it. It was just fun. And so while there was never anybody who really inspired me, I always had an enormous amount of respect for those guys. And what's interesting is that I've kind of become friends with some of the voice actors in our field that I have the most respect for. Steve Bloom and I are very good friends, and he's a wonderful voice actor. Laura Bailey, Colleen Klinkenbeard, Caitlin, some of the best female, Monica Rial, great voice actresses. So while there was never anybody before I got into this business that I I want to emulate that or be like that, there are certainly a lot of people that I work with that I have an enormous amount of respect for. Yes?
My dork of a father wrote you a note.
Your dad wrote me a note? Tell him I didn't mean it. Okay, I'll read it privately.
But, my question is, versus the original FMA and Brotherhood, which one do you prefer and why?
Yeah, I've had that question before, and you know what the answer is? I have no clue. And I'll tell you why, for a couple of reasons. Number one, I haven't seen all of Brotherhood yet. I've only recorded up through episode 49. That's all I know. And I will say that it's awesome. It's getting really intense. For those of you that are like, what's the difference? Is it the same? No. The new series is much darker and much more intense, and it follows the manga story. And it's amazing. You know what? I will say this. There is no way anything will ever take the place of the original series for me, because it was an incredible privilege to work on, and it was one of the greatest shows that I had ever gotten to be a part of at that point. So I don't think Brotherhood will ever eclipse the place that the original series has in my heart. But to me, Edward is Edward. Anything Full Metal, I love. You know what I'm saying? To me, it's almost all one big clump called Full Metal Alchemist. You know, the OVAs and the video games, all of it. I see it all as one character and one big universe. Even when we got into new episodes of Brotherhood, where they went off to Xerxes, and suddenly Ed's not wearing his red coat anymore. And I was like, this is great! Look at him in his duster, he looks so cool. And I loved that, but to me, it was just new adventures. It was like a new adventure that they had gone on that I hadn't experienced yet. So I don't even really delineate too much between the two. I don't know if I could ever pick a favorite. Yes? The question was, when we read the script for the first time, was there any particular strong emotion that I felt for the characters? Well, I will tell you this, we never even see the script until we record. So we walk in and it's like, okay, what are we doing today? Literally. And so when we started, I didn't know much about the series. I knew nothing. And a lot of people often ask me, hey, did you cry when Nina died? And the honest answer is no. No, but I have a reason. Because I hadn't yet invested into the character. It was still new. I mean, Nina was like, what, episode 4 or 5, something? It was very early. So I didn't really know the character that well and hadn't really built a bond with the characters yet. So when Ed was crying at the end of that episode when he sees Nina, that was what we like to call acting. I was acting like I was crying. But just a few episodes later, and for those of you that have heard this story before, I apologize, but I mean, the story is the truth is always the truth, it's the same. A few episodes later was the Bury the Chopper episode. And when we got to the end of that episode where they're taking Barry away, and Ed and Al are sitting on the steps, and Al and Ed's talking to Al about how he really, really thought he was going to die. That was the end of his life. And I mean, I was doing those lines, and suddenly I felt myself getting teary. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is really starting to get to me. I'm really starting to fall in love with these characters and the relationship between the brothers. And that scene at the end, that little monologue that Ed did at the end of that episode was the first time that I actually like teared up and got really emotionally moved by the show. And from that point on, there were a lot of those moments for the rest of the time.